The world didn't fall in 1929. It jumped, because the greatest economic collapse in history wasn't an accident. It was built slowly, quietly, one gamble, one loan, one dream at a time. This is the story of how it all came crashing down. The 1920s were a fever dream. Jazz clubs roared at night. Factories hummed at dawn. Cars, radios, refrigerators, technology was exploding, and so were people's ambitions. And at the center of all this excitement stood Wall Street. Stocks didn't just rise, they launched into orbit. Ordinary Americans who barely understood investing jumped into the market like it was a lottery that always paid out. It was intoxicating. Magazines called the stock market a money-making machine. Business professors declared that prosperity was permanent. And the newspapers repeated a dangerous myth. Stocks can only go up. But the fuel behind this spectacular rise wasn't real wealth, it was debt. And it was about to change everything. In the 1920s, Americans discovered a financial shortcut called margin, borrowing money to buy stocks. It was deceptively simple. Imagine you have $10. You go to a broker, borrow $90, and buy $100 of stock. If the stock price goes up, your profits are magnified enormously. You feel like a genius. But if it goes down, you don't just lose your initial $10. You lose everything and still owe the $90 you borrowed. Investors loved it, banks encouraged it, and brokers expanded it, making it easier than ever to get in on the action. By 1929, it's estimated that over half of all stocks were bought with borrowed money. America did not own its prosperity, it owed it. The entire economy was a glittering tower built on toothpicks, and it only needed one spark to fall. In early October 1929, that spark arrived. At first, it was just whispers. Rumors spreading through the financial district. Steel production is slowing. Car sales are dropping. Farm prices are collapsing. Most investors just shrugged. The market still looked invincible. The party was still going, but the smartest players, the insiders who saw the writing on the wall, began pulling out quietly, selling their shares while the public was still buying them up, eager for another round. Then, on October 24th, a day later known as Black Thursday, the tremor became a quake. Stocks began sliding. A few points at first, then more. Phones rang non-stop. Brokers shouted orders across the trading floor. Rumors spread like wildfire. Outside the New York Stock Exchange, massive crowds formed, just staring at the numbers falling on the ticker tape, unable to look away. People tried to reassure each other. It's just a correction. It'll come back. It always does. They were wrong. October 29th, 1929, Black Tuesday, the darkest day in Wall Street history. The moment the opening bell rang, sheer panic erupted. A tidal wave of sell orders hit the market. 16 million shares were dumped in a single day, a record that would stand for decades. There was no one left to buy. Stock prices didn't just fall, they collapsed. Blue-chip companies, the giants of American industry worth fortunes just hours earlier, were suddenly worthless. Brokers begged for buyers, but there were none. The system froze. For those who had bought on margin, it was a nightmare come to life. Their brokers called, demanding repayment in cash, right now, but with stocks worth almost nothing, repayment was impossible. People lost their life savings, their homes, their businesses, everything they had ever worked for, in a single morning. Newspapers described the scene with chilling headlines: an economic earthquake, financial suicide hour, the day the American dream died. But the shockwave didn't stop at Wall Street. It was just getting started. It was about to spread across the entire world. The dominoes began to fall, one by one, with terrifying speed. Banks had lent billions to investors who could no longer repay them. So, the banks failed. First a few, then hundreds, then thousands. When banks failed, businesses lost their credit and savings. When businesses failed, workers lost their jobs. When workers lost their jobs, they stopped spending. And with no spending, the entire economy ground to a halt. This was the birth of the Great Depression. By 1932, the numbers were staggering. 5,000 banks had collapsed. 13 million Americans, a quarter of the workforce, had lost their jobs. Factories were producing at half their previous capacity. World trade fell by 2/3. Across the country, bread lines stretched for blocks. Families sold everything they owned, even their children's toys, just to buy food. In the heartland, farmers burned their crops because the cost of selling them was more than they were worth. It felt like the world had simply stopped turning. And the crash didn't stay in America. It went global. Europe, already struggling to rebuild after the devastation of World War I, was plunged into deeper chaos. America had been bankrolling Germany's war reparations. And when the American money dried up, Germany's fragile economy collapsed. Unemployment soared. Poverty and desperation created a breeding ground for political extremism. Historians widely believe that the economic turmoil created by the 1929 crash helped pave the way for the rise of authoritarian governments, radical ideologies, and ultimately, a world sliding inexorably toward another world war. A stock market bubble, born from greed and illusion on an island in New York, had tragically reshaped the entire planet. The 1929 crash revealed a hard, timeless truth. Economies aren't destroyed by poverty, they're destroyed by illusion. The illusion that prices can never fall. The illusion that debt isn't dangerous. The illusion that markets are somehow smarter than basic human fear. But the last and biggest illusion was this. This time is different. It never is. Even today, with all our technology and financial instruments, markets rise and fall on the very same emotions that drove them a century ago. Greed, fear, hope, and panic. And every financial crisis since 1929, from the crash of 1987, to the dot-com bubble of 2000, to the global financial crisis of 2008, echoes the same fundamental warning: when money grows faster than reality, reality always catches up. The world didn't fall in 1929, it jumped, pushed by its own greed, lifted by its own illusions, and finally pulled down by the gravity of truth. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, please subscribe for more.